What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel, and welcome to another 2020 college football schedule breakdown and record prediction video. Today, I'm going to be doing the Nebraska Cornhuskers, a team that plays in the Big Ten. The Nebraska Cornhuskers are a pretty historically good team, but as of late, they just have not been that great. A few years ago, they went 9-4, but it's been mostly 5-7, 4-8 seasons other than that. They just missed a bowl game last year with a record of 5-7, and I would not be surprised if we see them making a bowl this year, though, because I definitely do think they have talent. Their quarterback, Adrian Martinez, is someone who is normally he is normally a player people expect to be a breakout player that season, but he doesn't really ever live up to the hype. And I don't think he'll be great this year, but I definitely think he will take a step up from last season. And I think Nebraska as a team will take a step up from last season. They definitely have the talent to do so, and I definitely think they will be better than the past few years. Maybe not as good as that 9-4 season a few years ago, but better than last year, better than the year before that. So let's get into it. They went 5-7 last year, like I said, and they had a top 20 recruiting class in the country, number 20. Fantastic for them. Starting the season off, they play against Purdue. Purdue is a team I expect to take a step up this season. I think that Purdue is going to get better this year, but I kind of feel that if they're going to get better, it's probably going to be later in the year rather than early in the season. So, because, early in the season, teams normally do struggle early in the season instead of late. That depends, but most of the time, teams that will be better in one season usually struggle early. So I think Purdue will have struggles early, but get better later in the season. So Purdue, I think, is just going to be okay this year. They have Rondale Moore, the wide receiver. He's one of the better receivers in the country. So I think Purdue and Nebraska will have similar records this season. So this is a pretty good game on paper, but I just think that because Nebraska's at home, because it's earlier in the year, that could really make it different for either Purdue or Nebraska or even both. But just because Nebraska's at home, I think that this will be a Nebraska win. I think both teams will struggle in this game, but in my opinion, Nebraska is just the better team. Maybe you can say Purdue's better, but because Nebraska's at home, I'm going to take Nebraska in this one. Week 2, I don't see them having a problem here. Central Michigan, like I said, they should have no problem here. That's an easy win. Week 3, play South Dakota State, an FCS school. South Dakota State is an FCS school, but they're not terrible as an FCS school. They're fine, but I just don't really see South Dakota State contending with Nebraska, especially because Nebraska's at home. So I think that should be a pretty easy win. Maybe they can have a bit of trouble. Maybe South Dakota State can surprise them, but I don't think that it'll be as big of a surprise as a South Dakota State win. And then week 4, they have a tough out-of-conference game playing Cincinnati. So it's some tough out-of-conference games. Central Michigan might not be too hard, but South Dakota State and Cincinnati could both be challenges. Cincinnati will be one of the better teams in the AAC this season. Definitely have the talent. Desmond Ridder, their quarterback, is coming back. They're returning a lot of talent. And Cincinnati should be a serious contender in the American Athletic this year, which is why this is a tough game. It's a tough game to predict because I think Cincinnati is better than Nebraska, or at least at this point in the year, Cincinnati will be playing better than Nebraska, just because I think Nebraska will probably struggle early in the season. But Cincinnati is on the road team this game. Nebraska is at home for this game. So that really makes it a lot more interesting. It could really go either way, in my opinion. Nebraska might have had some trouble a week earlier against South Dakota State, which might cause them to have trouble in this game. But at the moment, I'm actually going to take Nebraska here. I definitely think that Nebraska is talented enough to beat Cincinnati. I just think it's going to be, will they be able to beat Cincinnati? Obviously, that's the question. And I think they will be able to. I do think they will be able to in this one just because they're at home. So I think it's a 4-0 start for Nebraska this season. I think maybe they drop one against Purdue, South Dakota State, or Cincinnati. Those are all tough games in my opinion. Maybe not necessarily tough, but games they could lose. But I do think that at worst 3-1 probably. Maybe they go 2-2, but it should be 3-1 or 4-0. Week 5, they have the first road game of the year, an in-conference game at Northwestern. Northwestern isn't going to be anything special this year, in my opinion. They were pretty good last season, but they're not going to be, or 2 seasons ago, they're probably not going to be that great this year, though. Probably will be a step back. They do have some talent, but they're just missing pieces, in my opinion, and they just won't be anything too special. And even though this is a road game for Nebraska, I do think they should be able to get a pretty comfortable win. Maybe they'll struggle a bit because they're coming off a tough game. They're on the road here, but I do think that they should be able to win this one. Week 6, playing Illinois. Illinois like Nebraska, is a team that's on the rise, in my opinion, that's getting better and will be better this season, potentially even making a bowl game. But I still believe that Nebraska is the better team than Illinois, and it's a home game for Nebraska, so I really don't see them having too much trouble in this one. Illinois will improve this year, in my opinion, but I don't really think they'll beat Nebraska. So I think it could be a 6-0 start for Nebraska here. Maybe they drop one against Cincinnati or Purdue or South Dakota State, maybe even Northwestern. But I think it's a 6-0 start in my opinion. Probably worst case would be 4-2 at this point in the year. So should be a pretty good start for Nebraska. Of course, then they have their bye week. It's a pretty well-placed bye. Splits their season in half, and it's going to be going into a road game. It's not the toughest road game, but it is still a road game nonetheless. And that road game in Week 8 is going to be against Rutgers. Rutgers just isn't that good of a football team. Rutgers just has not been that great of a football team for the past few years, and they probably will not be great again this year. So I really don't see Nebraska struggling here. Maybe they struggle a bit because they're on the road, but they're coming off a bye. They're playing Rutgers, who shouldn't get too hard. So I think this should be a pretty easy win for Nebraska. I'm definitely going to take them here. And then their schedule starts to get a lot tougher. They have to play on the road at Ohio State, and let's just be honest, they are not going to win this game. If they're at home, maybe they can get an upset. Probably not, but maybe they can shock us all and get an upset. But they're just not winning this game. They're on the road against arguably the best team in the country with Justin Fields. They're losing J.K. Dobbins, but they still have a lot of talent at running back like Master Teague and some other guys. Wide receiver is great. They have Olave. It's just a talented team all around, especially on the offense for Ohio State. And maybe Nebraska can put up some points against Ohio State, but they're just not winning this game. They're on the road against the best team in the country, or the second best team in the country if you think Clemson's better, but they're just not going to win this game. Week 10, this is a tough one as well. Penn State. Penn State, in my opinion, is the second best team in the Big Ten. Nebraska is at home for this game, which could help, but what won't help is that obviously Penn State's a great team, and they're coming off a game against Ohio State. So maybe they can get the upset in this one, but I feel like it's a lot more likely Penn State will get the win. Penn State just has so much more talent. Basically, in my opinion, every position that Penn State has is better than Nebraska. Maybe there's a few Nebraska has better, but Sean Clifford is a better quarterback than Adrian Martinez. Journey Brown is a better running back than what Nebraska has. It's just, I feel that Penn State is just the better team at most positions. And I feel that Penn State will win this one. Maybe I think this game could be closer than the Ohio State game, but Penn State is just too good in my opinion, and I don't think they'll win against Penn State after they played Ohio State only a week earlier. Week 11, they have a road game, but it's not too tough a game, actually. It's against Iowa. Iowa will probably take a step back this year. They're losing a lot. They're not really getting that much back, or just getting that much from anywhere else. So I think it's going to be a step back from Iowa this season. I think that Iowa and Nebraska are both very talented football teams. But I do think Nebraska has the talent to beat Iowa. I think Iowa has the talent to beat Nebraska as well. But at the moment, I do think it will be Iowa in this one, just because Iowa's at home. That's just unfortunate for Nebraska. If they're at home in this game, I'm going to pick them. It's just unfortunate that they're on the road in this one. So I'm going to take Iowa here. Wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska gets the win, but because they're on the road, I just feel it's a bit more likely that Iowa will win. Week 12, I don't really think to win this one. They're on the road against Wisconsin. This one isn't as tough as Ohio State, in my opinion, but it's still going to be very tough, and they're just probably not going to win. Wisconsin is one of the best teams in the Big Ten, probably third or fourth, in my opinion. Maybe you can even say they're second ahead of Penn State. And it's just going to be tough for Nebraska to come to Wisconsin and get the win. So maybe they can make it closer than some people would expect, but just later in the year, I just don't really see Nebraska contending with a team like Wisconsin. I think this should be a Wisconsin win. And then Week 13, they play Minnesota at home. This is a winnable game. Some people aren't really considering this to be a game they can win, but I do think it's a game they can win. They're at home, and maybe Minnesota just isn't as good as we think they will be this year, but I do think they will struggle in this game just because they're coming off a road game against Wisconsin. Minnesota is still a better team, and in my opinion, Minnesota is definitely better than Nebraska. So I think they can make this closer than some people expect, but I just don't expect them to win. It's just a tough end of the season for Nebraska. A very, very tough schedule. It's just a tough schedule as a whole, who they have to play, and then the situation where they have to play them. Out of conference, they have some tough games. South Dakota State could be tough. Cincinnati's going to be tough. And then their schedule set up where they have to play. The first 7 games of the season are all winnable games. They could be ranked. They could be 7-0 and higher in the rankings at this point in the year going into the Ohio State game, but then they'll lose to Ohio State. They'll probably lose to Penn State. I think they'll lose to Iowa. They could win, but I think they'll lose there. Then they'll probably lose to Wisconsin and Minnesota. It's just a tough, unfortunate schedule for Nebraska. So now, as I always do, I'll go through every game once again, and I'll give my predictions for I think will win. Week 1, Purdue, I think that's a win. 2, Central Michigan, I think that's a win. South Dakota State is a win. Cincinnati, I think is a win. It can be close, but I think it is a win. I think they'll beat Northwestern on the road. That could be a loss, but I think it's a win. I think they beat Illinois, then they have their bye. I think they beat Rutgers, but then I think they'll lose to Ohio State. I think they'll lose to Penn State. I think they'll lose to Iowa. I think they'll lose to Wisconsin. I think they'll lose to Minnesota to give them a record of 7-5 on this year. It's just a rough schedule for them. Tough out-of-conference games, tough how the schedule is set up, and I just feel bad for, Nebraska players, fans. Because they definitely have the talent to be a better team, and they could win some more games. They could beat Iowa, maybe they beat Minnesota. So this is a team that could go 9-3, honestly, but it's just unfortunate, an unfortunate schedule. They could definitely be ranked going into that Ohio State game, but it's just going to be tough for them, honestly. But I think they will return to a bowl game this season, or not return to one because they didn't make one last year, but will make a bowl game this year. I think Adrian Martinez is really going to step up. So I think it will be a pretty good season for Nebraska overall. But these are my thoughts on the Nebraska Cornhuskers for the season. What are your guys' thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Before I end the video, I just want to say that I've done I predicted records for most of the teams I think will be good this season. So if there is a team that you want to see me predict that I have not yet done, Power 5 schools, please suggest Power 5 schools. I'm not really going to do any other schools yet, but maybe I'll move on to them later. But if there's a Power 5 school that I have not predicted yet that you want to see me predict, please tell me in the comment section below, and I will probably do it in the upcoming days. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.